Okay. Hello, hello. It's Thursday afternoon. I wanted to talk with you today a little bit about when life and work are feeling really, really hard, like you're pushing and working and doing all the things that you know to do. And maybe some outcomes are coming easily, and maybe a lot of them are not. So I want to define something first, and then I want to go into why that is. So, what I want to define for you is really the concept of masculine and feminine energies. I might as well bring up a chart. I always have charts if I can. Let me share this with you. Okay, and then I'm going to make my screen big. Hopefully, you can see this. I tried to find one that was easy to see. There's a lot of these on the internet. It doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman. We all have masculine and feminine energy. It's also called the yin and the yang. I guess down here, Shiva and Shakti. I'm less familiar with that, but it's all available, and every human being has masculine and feminine energy. Now, how much of it you rely on more masculine energy or more feminine energy also has nothing to do with your gender, whether you're a man or a woman. So, what I'm talking about is when you're feeling like you're working really hard, that's when you're relying on the masculine energy qualities to get you the results that you want. And those qualities are doing, right? I got to do it. I have to do this myself. I have to do more. Oh, I didn't figure this out yet. Let me go do something else. I have to do all the things. Also, very caught up in the head, thinking about things a lot, reasoning, using logic to problem solve. They're very focused. Anybody in their masculine energy is very focused and assertive and confident. Okay. The opposite side of that is the feminine energy. And again, both genders have this. Men have this totally available to them. And women actually, especially professional women, women who are high achievers, very much get stuck in their masculine energy. But men have the feminine energy, and the feminine energy is described as being more intuitive. So rather than using your head and your logic, listening to your heart a little bit more. What's your gut say? You know, that women's intuition, that's where that comes from. But what does your gut tell you? What's your emotional response to something? And then listening to that. Being okay, being okay with being. So instead of doing all the time, thinking about who do I need to be to get this done instead of what do I need to do. It's a very different cut at getting the outcomes that you want. And sometimes, a lot of times, being is resting, being is taking a step back. So you could also think of it like the masculine energy is really leaning in and causing. And then the feminine energy is knowing it's time to lean out and let it sit. It's time to lean out and let the fruits of your labor grow. It's time to just be and stop doing. All right, using your intuition, allowing things to happen rather than forcing things. So, another way that this has been described is power versus force. Force is the masculine energy, the forcing something. You're gonna get it done. I'm gonna knuckle through. Power is allowing, leaning out, allowing things to flow. And there's a lot of power in that. That's why it's called Power versus Force. There's a book by David Hawkins. It's pretty thick, but it's a great book, Power versus Force, that you might want to check out. Okay, I think you can see this pretty well. I'm going to stop sharing that if I can. And yeah, let me see. Okay. Okay. So, oh, it's back on. Why? I might be ending up leaving it on. Um, Now, why is this important in terms of how hard your life feels? Because When we talk about burnout, people are burned out. Okay, let's define that first. When you're burned out, it's because you've lost your motivation and your passion, even for the things that you love. When you're experiencing burnout, raise your hand if that's ever happened. When you're burned out, even the stuff that you love to do, maybe it used to be you love to exercise all the time and now you can't get yourself to do it. Maybe it's you own your own business and you love what you do, but now you dread what you have to do to keep it going. Maybe it's even in parenting, feeling burned out. So the feeling of burnout comes in the way of lack of motivation, maybe even apathy, not able to get that energy up to do what you need to do or what you even love and want to do. And that can happen when we're very much stuck in the masculine energy side of things. We're not balanced. So the goal is to find a way to find the middle ground where you're doing what you need to do, but then you also can sit back and allow the results, and where you're thinking about things, but then you're also dropping into your heart and paying attention to what your heart tells you and what your emotions tell you, and using that as just an effective tool as what your brain tells you. um, if you've listened to anything that I've done in the past, I often talk about heart brain coherence, and the heart can give the brain a lot of great information. So developing those skills to be able to do that. But what I'd like to talk a little bit about is, why does it happen that we get so out of balance? And if you're familiar with masculine and feminine energies, you may have heard before wounded masculine or wounded feminine. And when somebody is in wounded masculine or wounded feminine, it means that they are overly reliant and actually have gone too far to the extreme. So it could be, let's just use like a feminine energy one. It could be, instead of allowing, being and allowing, when you're in wounded feminine, you actually are kind of victimy. You're being victimy and you're waiting for people to come help you. Or a wounded masculine could be, you're so far over to the side of, I can do this, I have to get the results, I'm going to make it happen, that you become um, frustrated, like your emotions are now showing up as a problem a lot of times, right? There's a lot of frustration. You take yourself away from social things because you're so focused on what you're doing. So I want to talk to you, particularly because I work with women. I want to talk to women who feel like they're stuck in that masculine doing, and even have crossed into the wounded masculine, where they're not at all balanced, feeling the burnout, not getting any downtime for themselves, not resting, not allowing. That's who I really want to talk to in this conversation, because where that happens is from a couple of things. One really big place that women in particular develop or become wounded masculine is if you're a woman who in childhood didn't have caregivers who were very balanced themselves, or there was stuff going on in the household that made you feel a little insecure. Maybe things aren't safe. Maybe I need to step up and do something to help the grown-ups. So examples of that might be if you grew up in an alcoholic household, if you grew up in a single parent household, if you grew up in a household where the adults were not great at managing their anger. And so as a child, you realize, I need to do something to help this situation, especially like in the single parent scenario or the alcoholic scenario. You step up and you're trying to really help and fill that gap that the grown up is not managing. Because as children, What we need for a good balanced development to be balanced in masculine and feminine, what we need is to know that we're unconditionally loved. So we're not receiving love based on our accomplishments, based on, how our parents' egos are feeling about us. No, we receive unconditional love is the first thing. We also need to feel like I'm going to say parents, but it's whoever is your caregiver during those younger years, that they have got the world handled, that you are secure because the grown-ups, they got it. They have it financially, so there's not a lot of money conversations and fear around money. They have balanced themselves within their communication. And also, as a girl, seeing her mom, as someone who is able to balance and nurture herself. If you have a mom figure who is running ragged herself, who is always overworking, who is either because she's a single parent or because she can't rely on her husband or she just thinks she has to do it, then you see that and you see that she's out of balance, and then you take on those traits as well. So that's one big reason why women become wounded masculine and then overcompensate in their life by relying too much on those traits and not giving their bodies and their life the balance of their feminine traits. Um, Again, it has nothing to do with sexuality and it has nothing to do with gender. All right, it's just for some reason I don't know why they were named masculine and feminine. Another reason why a woman might grow up overusing her masculine energy is because it kind of fits in with the first one, but somewhere you got the message. The only way to get the outcomes in life that you want is to work really hard. So it might be your parents said, you got to work hard in this life. This is what you have to do. People who don't work hard don't get what they want or don't get, the life that they should have. The only way to get things is to work really hard. And I'm not saying there's not a time to be doing what you need to do, to put the effort in. What I'm talking about is if you're burned out, you can't find it in you to put on the kids' party with any sort of enthusiasm, to get up and get yourself to work again, because if you've only relied on it takes hard work to get what I want, at some point your body and your soul are like, hold on. We are not ever getting a rest. You're not ever leaning out. You're not ever trusting. You're only ever doing. And so it shows up in the burnout, but it could very well come from an early messaging that you got. So it might be the first scenario that I gave that causes it is your own experience where as a child you step in to fill a gap where a parent was not doing their job. And so you made the decision, I have to be the one. I have to do more. Sometimes older children, especially if there's like a lot of kids, like there's like a pack of kids, and the first child maybe gets the message from the parents and also looks like I need to help. I have to really step up. I'm the oldest. And there's nothing wrong with stepping up and there's nothing wrong with doing those things. It's just if you're burned out at some point in your life to look and see, have I overcompensated like that? So it's either your own belief or you were told something like that, somewhere that you got the message, either in your own experiences or in what you heard and learned. So you just want to take a look at how you're doing the process of your life and is it serving you? Do you have to keep working like that? And sometimes that requires some rewiring because it really may feel like with the lens that you're looking through at your life, yes, that's what I have to do. You don't know my life. That's what I have to do. And I get that. I've been there. But when we do some rewiring, around the lens that you see your life through, you start to see that it's possible that you can start to live in the balance. You can start to use intuition as well as reasoning. Oh, hey, Dawn. I'm so glad that you commented at a place where I can see it because this is always streaming at a few places. So, anyway, Dawn says, this is powerful. Great. I hope so. Certainly part of what I've lived. So, when you rewire and you start to look at that, then you can say, oh, maybe I can step out of the doing all the time. Maybe I can relax a little bit and nurture myself so that I don't feel like I'm always the one doing, doing, doing. Maybe I'm not in that alcoholic household that I grew up in, and I don't have to be the one to step up. Again, if you didn't get what you needed, and it doesn't mean your parents didn't love you, right? People can only do their best given where they're at and the tools that they have. So even when we have parents who love us, it doesn't mean that we didn't have experiences that, left their mark, so to speak, right? So sometimes it's looking at maybe I'm not in that alcoholic household anymore and I don't have to be filling gaps, but I've always done that. So I just don't know any other way to be. But you have to first realize it, right? Or I've got a partner that I can rely on. It doesn't have to always be me. So that's the difference between masculine and feminine energy. I can bring it up one more time if you weren't on in the beginning. And let me make it big. I don't know if it gets big for you or just big for me. Maybe it's just big for me. But the masculine side, again, both genders have both masculine and feminine energy. It has nothing to do with your gender. It has nothing to do with your sexuality. It's the energy that you bring to your life, to the processes of your life, to relationships. So the masculine would be doing. I have to do it, do it, do it. I have to be the one to get it done. You're very stuck up in your brain, always figuring it out. You're very focused, assertive, and confident, right? And this is, as it says down here, that I got this from the internet. I didn't make this list, and it says non-exhaustive, meaning there's a lot more on the list, but these are the basics. And then the feminine would be instead of doing, I can sit back and just be. Instead of always being up in my head, I can drop down into my heart. Instead of being so focused, I can actually have flow and ease. I can allow things rather than force things, power versus force. Instead of relying on assertiveness and confidence, I can actually be unconditionally loving. And that is a really huge one because that gets lost. Okay. All right. So I hope that provided something for you for your life. That kind of rewiring, the work that I do around stress, around burnout, around feeling overwhelmed is changing those patterns and the rewiring and starting to see how things are working, coming to play into your life. All right. And particularly with my background in health, stress, burnout, and overwhelm is a huge piece of why people can't fully get better. And it's not just the stress and the overwhelm that you have in your life, like today, April 28th. I had to check on the date. But it's also what is the stress and the overwhelm that you've been carrying with you since you were 5 years old? And we've got to get that out. We've got to get the energy out of your body, and we've got to change the patterns so that you can actually live differently. Okay? All right. If you have questions on that, if you're like, yeah, I need to do that, if you need some partnership, please put a comment in. Please reach out. Please send me a message in anywhere that you're watching this. And I would love to talk to you more about that. Okay. You don't have to be living that way. And balance feels really good. It feels really good in your physical body. It feels really good in your spirit. It feels really good in your heart. and it feels really good to all the people around you when you get yourself balanced. Okay, my friends, have a great weekend, and I will see you next week. Bye.